we set up the Murdoch Study is that we bring people in at some point in time. They may be healthy at that time, they may have an illness at that time. We characterize their history, everything that's happened up until that point, and that's important in informing what it might happen to them next. And then we follow them forward in time on a yearly basis. And what we're looking for is the development of disease or progression of disease over that time. And I put this up here just to remind everyone, and I don't think that's a problem in the MS study, but that your follow-up is incredibly important. It's like the most important thing at this point in understanding progression from healthy to disease or progression of your disease. If we don't have your information out here, we won't know what happened since we enrolled you in the study. So one of our main focuses now as we're transitioning from a push for enrollment is a push for completeness of follow-up. So we know what diseases people have developed, and that makes this collection of participants, their data, and their samples incredibly valuable, because what people want when they're doing research is some people who stay healthy and some people who develop disease. And if we don't know that, our effort at taking all of this blood, asking you all of these questions, your contributions are less valuable if we don't have your follow-up. So Doug Wickstead, who's sitting back here, has put a lot of thought into how we make follow-up, he and the team, how we make that more engaging and more likely to be successful. So if you see Project Blue, blue envelopes for your follow-up, that's what we're doing, is for the entire Murdoch community, increasing our performance at follow-up from where it is now about 70%, we'd like to be 90%. So a high bar. So here we are now, we're in the Horizon 2 studies. The MS study that you've been hearing about is part of that, but what else are we focused on? And I'd just like to take a few minutes to run through some of the other areas that we're doing similar types of research in. So this is one of our really interesting, I think, Horizon 2 studies. It's called the Physical Performance Study. And what we're really looking at here is how people age. Why do some people become more frail as they age? Do men and women age similarly? How does their physical performance do as they get older? And so these individuals come in, they have a battery of strength and agility testing, and then we follow them every 2 years. We collect their blood, just like Simon is doing in the progressive MS, primary progressive MS study. We do that serially so we can see what changes over time, and that might show us who's going to become frail, who's going to age more healthily. They've already had one publication come out that's received a lot of national attention. Wall Street Journal, USA Today picked up on this story because it's one of the first studies that's actually looked at taking individuals at various ages and seeing what it is that predicts differential aging, why men and women may or may not age similarly. We have a memory and cognitive health study. I think Alzheimer's disease probably scares everyone in this room. It certainly received a lot of medical and lay attention nationally. We have an investigator, Kathy Walsh-Bomer, and her colleagues in neurology at Duke who are very interested in this. It's another one of our leading Horizon 2 studies where we're collecting not only samples, but we're serially testing people's memory and cognitive function every 2 to 3 years to understand why some people decline in their cognitive function and why others remain clear even well into their 80s or 90s. So we're at the very early stages of this. There's an NIH grant that's going on now that's going to do metabolomics work similar to what's going on in the MS study that we're hopeful will yield the same kind of results, signatures of why some people develop Alzheimer's and others don't. We have a new study that's just starting. Scott Palmer and Jamie Todd are pulmonologists at Duke. They're looking at understanding chronic obstructive lung disease that individuals developed after smoking. Some people progress very rapidly with this. Others have no effects from the cigarette smoking. Why is that? What can we learn from their history and their biology? We have a footprint now in cancer, the first study being in prostate cancer. Steve Paterno and Ginny Friedman, also at Duke, at the Duke Cancer Institute, have in their preliminary work found a signature from RNA studies, from expression studies like you heard about, that identifies aggressive forms of prostate cancer, particularly in African Americans. And the question is this, does it bear out in a larger population? Can they validate it in the Murdoch study participants? Does it extend to aggressive forms of prostate cancer in Caucasians and other races, or is it unique to African Americans? So they're doing the same types of studies that you saw with multiple sclerosis, but in trying to understand the aggressiveness of prostate cancer. We have studies in diabetes. This is a unique study that's looking at how we educate people about managing their diabetes, and can we put them in a virtual reality type setting and better educate them than if we do traditional forms of education. We have a new study that's coming called the baseline study. The unique thing about the baseline study is that it grew out of the Murdoch study, but it will provide funds to analyze samples across all of the platforms that you saw Dr. Gregory describe, and provide that data in real time. It's focused on cardiovascular disease and cancer. We have a voucher program that's allowed us to collaborate with members of the research community at the North Carolina Research Campus and begin some collaborative pilot type studies across a number of disease areas and in nutrition as well. So trying to bring health into this as well as simply focusing on diseases. And then finally, this is an interesting study that's not really looking at biology as much as it is leveraging the infrastructure that we've created here, the team, the connections with the community, the connections with our healthcare providers in the community to understand drug abuse and addiction and what drives that and how we might be able to more successfully prevent and treat those individuals. So this is an NIH-funded network that is run out of our office here. So just an example of the things we can do. And then finally, this is a study run by or funded out of the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, or PCORI. And what PCORI is really focused on is participant engagement, accessing information that participants give and the electronic health record, to use that to facilitate the kinds of research that we're talking about here today. One of the biggest challenges is we don't understand why in some cases there are discrepancies between the electronic health record and what a participant tells us about their medical history. And so what Meredith Naum and her team are focused on, she's now at the University of Arkansas, but was previously at Duke and funded through PCORI, is figuring out what drives those differences between our electronic health record and what we know about our medical health. So this is an interesting study. I think will give us a lot of insight into how we can use the information that we've collected from all of you and put that in the bigger context of healthcare. And so, so that's what's going on now. That's a whirlwind tour through what we're doing. I think, I think the main message here is that, you know, it's the participants, it's what they've given that's created this amazing platform for research. It's the team in the back of the room and who I show you here, who's made it possible to access that resource and to do interesting things like multiple sclerosis research, which we're here today to celebrate. So thank you.